All right, daily trading recap for Tuesday, the 29th of March, 2022. Last week of this month here of March. Still getting after it and continuing to learn and grow with each and every single day. Future strategies working out well again within that first minute of market open, and also the daily session strategy for that future side of it. Wasn't crazy. Anything happening immediately after that open on the previous day, Monday, 6 o'clock Eastern time. But sure enough, ended up producing in the result that I wanted to see, and still downsized in those contract sizes on the MES side, keeping myself relative compared to where my current account size is on that futures account. And of course, that's screwy. Whatever, I had to restart my computer, so now it's all messed up stupidity there. But what are you gonna do? And the same thing with Thinkorswim, as I'll get into with VEON of stupidity that I kind of just learned about. I don't think there's any other way to get last in, first out. Kind of tax, not even for tax bracketing, but just for P&L wise, to be able to look at it that way of how I structured that trade. And I can see myself doing that more in the future too. TD Ameritrade is stuck that way of last in, last out. So just stupid that way that it becomes that you can't really change it. Other than if it's a long-term trade and you're just trading it on the trade itself from the webpage site, not even through Thinkorswim. Stupidity, but I digress. My market internals on the day. Forgot to mention, of course, to Christ be the glory, as always. First and most important there. NASDAQ, $269 billion volume, NYSE, $360 billion volume, OTCs, $2.4 billion volume on the day. And again, I'm coming here of taking relatively small position sizes and getting away cutting losers when they need to be cut, and still keeping and maintaining the type of educational process that I want to continue to push, but just the same rigmarole over and over again is just wearing me down. It's becoming that toil of this grind of trading, and of course not even trying to compare myself to everybody else. And Chris having an awesome trade today, so proud of him, and awesome nail there on forget the ticker, IGMS, on that awesome mover today. But it's just the same thing of always having to be doing something different, and or just always doing the same thing, but now realizing, God, do I have to be doing something different, or is this part of the process? And just all of the thoughts that begin to creep up and develop in this tiny little room of standing in here for so long each day. But that's a part of the process, and I'm all here for it. And I just beg for the forgiveness of the faults and just the failures, but I'm so incredibly thankful for them, for the opportunity to learn from them and grow and move forward from there. And the ever-going process of evolving as a person and then as a trader in itself. So that's all I wanted for the introduction. I'll start off with SXTC. Started all paper on this one. From the pre-market, I wanted to go very short on this bad boy because Chinese pharmaceutical company, it's a little bit of a low float, 14 million float, which is equated to about like $350 million to control the entire float. Didn't really see a specific news catalyst, but kind of Chinese momentum-ish, very decent dollar volume on the day. They got plenty of cash still left as a company. They have a few warrants out, exercisable at $2.50, way beyond where we're trading now. Convertible notes at 30 cents, which could have been a little bit of a factor today, playing in there, and a shelf from February of 2021 of $40 million. So, and they also looks as though they know how to complete an offering when they want to. So just keeping that all in mind of coming into this preparation trade of just say, I think it's a sketchy company, and I think they know what they're doing of pumping prices when they want to see it, and just pumping it up, let it do what it wants to do, tracked in shorts, attract in the stupid retail, and just let it tank when it wants to. So that was the, especially off of this initial perk from the opening of pre, fades, sizzles, does whatever, then has another little cupping, but create a new high, then pull back off of there. I think my logic was flawed going off of that cupping pattern of what I was trying to relate it to, of seeing similar charts like this that have a double peak or a double parabolic move in pre-market, that I believe I was seeing what charts I was relating that to. That secondary pre-market parabolic move was far closer to the open than this one initially happened. This was far too, as I look back on it, I think this was far too much consolidation and rest for this thing to accumulate, just kind of die back down, for everybody to establish themselves again, to refreshen their palate in order to play this thing again and smack it to all the way to 50 cents, which I was just not even anywhere near expecting on the short side, even though it was paper. But yeah, just definitely did not factor that in or think that was a possibility, potential for this type of chart today. Started in short, as I thought it was kind of failing, or a little bit of a lower high here on the secondary move, so started in paper short there. Failed to really break to the downside of VWAP or crack to a new low from there. But we got a little squeeze, a little perk on some volume, so I said, whatever. It's paper. I'll be educational. I'll choose some curiosity here. Get shortened again into this little perk. Sure enough, it pushed through there. Just continued to rip. So I covered that one as it broke to a new high off of that the secondary perk in pre-market. Comes to 40 cents. Starts to bounce off the top of that level. So I said, choose curiosity again. Get paper short. Get a nice little fill. I was only taking like a quarter of position fill as it immediately pulled off of there for around a 10% move on that. I think just under a 10% move that was. I'm expecting this thing to just, if we get a pull to VWAP, I'm not expecting it to break new low a day from that move, but just playing like picking tops. Okay, looked out, picking the top. If it somehow magically comes and breaks to a new high of day from there, then so be it. And sure enough, it did. So covering the rest there, and I think for even what that paper trade was, taking a loss there. And of course, again and again, trying to get top pick here. I didn't play it, but that is just the game of trying to pick tops is super, super low and unsuccessful hit rate. But when that does come, and like it was today, man, it's just pure backside and just let it slide down the mountain. But who knows when it's going to stop. But of course, that $50 level is a key psychological level in hindsight. But who knows it doesn't go to $1 today? Who doesn't know it goes to 60 cents or just some arbitrary level there? And when that turn eventually comes, and sure enough, that was just a very beautiful and epic ride down all the way back to VWAP, and even a little bit more after that if you're played through some consolidation there on that one. Learning lessons of, this is why I take it paper, and this is why I still can't actually trade anything short with the current margin count that I have, but still putting in the work and grinding and understanding, okay, well, this one I definitely looked at something wrong there. I was with the crowd that was in the wrong, so now I got to adjust myself to realign my perspective with the people that are making money on these charts. GFAI I'll get into now. Awesome little trader. I'm mentioning first what comes to the forefront of my mind of why this chart potentially didn't work out as a first screen day. We did have a former run on this chart just a few relative trading days ago on the day, was that the 15th, I think, the big volume day on the 11th here. And just continuing this little upward multi-day move. It's not anything crazy or voluminous, going parabolic, but still up and still on some radars, on some level. Not on everybody's by any means, but having been in the recent forefront of the mind, there's some amount of bag holders in it. There's some amount of attention that potentially could have diluted the move today that didn't make it such a pure one-off, hey, this is a fantastic one-day move here coming into today, that I think it could have been, and that's what I tried to force it a little bit too much as, and didn't factor that very recent daily price action history on into this specific trade. But just for reference again, Thailand, a Thai cash management company service that they offer 9 million flow. Newscast today was they're expanding into Dubai and Australia. Whoopee. They got a few warrants exercisable at 130, which wasn't really a factor today. For where we were trading in pre-market in the morning session. They do have a shelf from December of 2020 at $7 million remaining on that one. And even at just in pre-market, I was saying that I didn't have the most greatest idea of what I would want to see out of it. And of course, I just want to throw a dip and rip, a classic Tim Bowen, slap a dip and rip label on there if it's up in pre-market on the first green day. But yeah, just those little hints there about saying, okay, it's a little floater. I think it could do something. Price action looks decent enough that it's picking its congruent, continuous price action, not so choppy and blocky, doging, and carrying some nice amount of attention, dollar volume, and trades going through even in pre-market. But yeah, like I mentioned, I think it was just a level of, it was tainted by that little past recent trading of it during this month. So disrupting the potential flow of what this could have been. And I don't want to say that, I was right. It was just because you and your meddling kids, you ruined my plan. But that is the trade itself. That's not a part of the trade. That's something that I should have factored in when trying to look at this for the trade. So I got to give myself an awesome grade for the execution, though, of that specific trade that I was looking for, if it did even potentially come out today, because of that first little in and out here, only taking 20 shares because of the potential protection against if it was just I want to call it a classic, but of how many times we've seen this before, that it's just a very quick from that first 9:30 minute candle or whatever, 2 minutes after the market opened, that it quick little dip and not even a huge amount of consolidation, but just immediately perks right back up and then just starts ripping from there. I forget the past one. I think it was even yesterday that kind of disrupted the plan that I think it was DATS maybe. That first screen day yesterday that just it started doing what it wants to do. I had all the plan and preparation of what I wanted to see potentially happen and absolutely capitalize on it with huge size if it did that, but adjusting with the flow and saying, okay, price is going to do a little bit something different. It's not going to always work out exactly how I imagine it coming into it, but that's why we create different perspectives and different pathways for these things to potentially go, because, I mean, there's infinite ways for these things to potentially go. So getting with only 20 shares, just getting a, not even like a FOMO appeaser, but just like I think there is potential to this trade here, and I think I could see it. Not even looking for a new high of daybreak here. I could see it just going into 1.7 there, and I could be seeing myself selling into that. And sure enough, it did. Of me getting filled just under 1.6 on that first entry, 20 shares off of that bounce. Of course, my lackadaisicality and kind of adjusting my order fill at that time for the slowness that I approached trying to buy a dip bottom or to adjust to that potential style play, when I was still keeping in mind my hard mental focus for a dip and rip 9:45 time frame entry. But of just getting a little bit later of fill, even sizing in just a little bit more with, I think, another 10 shares. This was at that point, as it's showing a little bit of strength, potentially getting to a new market hours high of day. And sure enough, price rides all the way into 1.7 there, selling, I think I sold half at least into that, or maybe 5 that I was just selling there. And beautiful rejection of following along pretty similar to what I thought it was going to be, but yet I still remained with 3/4 of the position on and just let it come all the way back down to stop me out at new low of day there. And of course, we have to mention the inevitable $0.50, $1.50 levels, key psychological point that coming into pre-market, that's what also was factoring me into a potential dip and rip of, okay, that could be a magnet as well, and potential area for if we open above that we could fall to somewhere around there. It doesn't have to necessarily hold it perfectly, like similar to what it did today, maybe test 149-ish, but cling to that area because it is such a psychological point. And then maybe we get a perk off of there, but yeah, that's where we perfectly fell to within that first little sell-off. And those are the types of points that I should be looking for as a short seller, of understanding of getting this little tiny squeeze. And if they're picked off on the wrong side, if I look at those from a short perspective and I get picked off to a new high of day from there, then I can learn my lesson. Like, what did we just learn from SXTC? And that same example, right? Of there's different variables all around and different sides trying to do different things with these charts, and understanding every perspective and understanding when the chart is saying that this parameter is going to happen right now. This is what is going to happen with this chart right now, and reading the flow and the tea leaves in a sense of that's what the level 2 and the time and sales reading is for. And very, very glad I got the screen recording of that level 2 and time and sales today on this bad boy, as I was playing it with much bigger size, going 500 shares around this little bottom here of 149-ish that it was kind of holding off of there. We had a huge bidder wall coming in around 149, I believe, that ignited me and said, okay, I think I can trade off of that. I can see that we're holding technically well, and because of that potential support, I could see us holding and maybe pressing some higher levels. It doesn't have to happen immediately right now within 1 to 2 minutes after my entry, but I could see us potentially building with a little bit more steam because for whatever reason that bidder was showing themselves. We did rise a little bit off of that, and then just a little bit of struggle and kind of just still printing not anything hard or aggressive on the taper time and sales. And then this huge bidder at 152 was showing itself, and then slowly started to be chipping away, and nothing was ever really printing hard on the ask, which just gave me that other vote of confidence of, okay, I'm not really feeling that the move is happening right now. It's not so convicted for me. So then exiting, being able to recognize and exit as that 152 is just slowly being chipped away and being eaten, that I was able to get filled there for the exit and recognize, okay, this move isn't happening. And sure enough, it sells within 4 minutes out of that. It didn't, like this little perk, whatever it did. But sure enough, that was the end of the move there. That was all what I was going to get from that specific entry point. I mean, I got to give myself an A+ for that, of recognizing intra-trade, regardless of the overall idea of the trade, of being able to recognize that, man, that's a huge vote of confidence for me going forward, of knowing that I can, even though it's, I can say it's stupid because I still got the cash account and that's eating up my cash of what I could trade the next day. But man, there's just a huge step and building block of recognizing when the trade is not going to happen, and not just always succumbing to, well, I got to still keep my risk level low of day. That's what I said coming in with my trade parameters, and holding myself accountable to that. There's times for that, but then there's also times of recognizing, okay, this trade is just not going to happen. And that was an awesome little recognition there that it was just going to be squirrely and start to break new lows within that little time frame that I was trading there in the morning session. So that was it on GFAI. Just a little squirreliness in the afternoon, whatever, but it is what it is. VEON, still in this bad boy. A little bit higher of a floater. This is a Netherlands telecommunication company. They got pretty big float, 907 million float, which is equating to like 58.9 billion to control that total float. Over $1 billion market cap. Larger company. No specific news catalyst on the day, but this is a multi-day breakout looking for after the hard downtrend just about a month ago now. I'm coming into today looking for, obviously, that $1 level is going to be a key psychological level going forward, and then that 3/4, not going to be the most awesome psychological level, but 75 cents, of course, produces some amount of dopamine hit of being a nice roundish number there. Coming in with pre-market, get a nice little perk there off the bat. And then saying, I really don't know how to trade this one as of right now. That same thing that I was saying with GFAI for how this price action is moving in pre, I don't see any real need for me to be in it or any point of entry which I would be comfortable with. But in the same light, now looking on the more intraday perspective, as it's kind of opening up to like a 30-minute candle, 15-minute candle. Okay, I see. Now I can see some lines of possible identification of consolidation and then looking to sell into that breakout point of beyond 775 here, or looking for even a play beyond there of should price even move closer to a $1 level from there. It is a big ask out of a bigger company and a bigger float to try and get such an immediate movement out of price like that, but just to say that anything is possible, and certainly don't deny if volume is there, volume can do anything, as I'll show on AMC and GME today too. Absolutely crazy movers on there. This is what I was alluding to in the introduction of using different entry points as different trades in themselves. So it's starting in with only 100 shares on this first little entry here, as got a little dip, got a little rip, new high day, pulled back to VWAP, maintaining there. I'm saying, okay, I think there's some volume coming in on this bad boy. I think it's holding decently well. I think we could see a move, whether it comes in the morning session or we get just a little teasing in the morning session and afternoon still holds and produces something more greater in terms of accumulation of bidders, of eyeballs on this boy to get the potential breakout. I'll start with 100 shares here. Sure enough, move comes immediately after that to new market hours high. I actually sized in keeping that $100 and maintaining the same risk level, or that 100 shares and maintaining the same risk of low of day to give it far enough of breathing room to say, if I'm going to give you enough consolidation, I'm going to give you that time to just kind of just weasel yourself out or just wait a little bit and shrink up those rotors until you can actually potentially try for even a breakout move, specifically on that 100 shares. And then as we're getting to new breakout levels, saying, okay, I think bidders are coming in, volume is there. This could be exactly what it turned out to be for these 50 shares, of just a very quick rejection that we failed to break through the top of 75 cents there. And sure enough, that's exactly what it became. But that's why I structured it for not only a smaller position size, but a later entry point and a much smaller risk reward, for knowing that that specific trade was just looking to profit off of the potential quick move break to the upside of, this is the point of no return of potentially getting more shares on at these prices before we start to ride on a crazy new breakout trend. So then going with the flow of that, cutting them as they showed they needed to be cut there. Still try to attempt putting in two higher lows off of that 75-cent level, rejected off of there. But didn't really, had another little attempt right at lunch. But closing below VWAP, not really any volume coming in, but the indication is there. I'm still holding those 100 shares. I still believe there is some opportunity lurking. I don't think it's going to happen in these after hours. Maybe it doesn't even happen pre-market tomorrow. But for how it's holding, I think it's still going to need to break hard below the 66-cent level area, or even 68 level, for me to really say, okay, that trend's not there right now. Maybe within the next week that we come to retest these breakout levels again of 75 cents, if the volume's going to be there, if it's going to be enough attraction that we can skirt away from the AMCs and the GMEs. But those tickers could be bringing back more attention to the overall markets as well, so it could be looking at that factor that way. But I certainly don't think it's dead yet for where I'm sitting with those 100 shares. still in an educational space with this type of trade. If it was a lower float, man, I just feel I definitely would be pushing this harder. But even with that higher float, I still think the opportunity is there. And for the position size that I have, I'm comfortable with it. So we'll keep an eye on it going forward over the next few trading days there on VEON. And then also taking a little stabber on DATS right before the close here, 20 shares that I only have right now. Looking for a third day surge tomorrow. I think I talked about it a little bit in the introduction, or another ticker, but and even talked about it yesterday. But a crazy first screen day move yesterday. Specific float on this one, I forget, just as a reference. Again, for moi, 14.5 million floater I'm showing here on scans, and just holding decently for this rest consolidation second day. Got a little pre-ejaculatory here in pre-market of putting in some nice percentage moves there, but not on any crazy volume relative to what it did in the first day. So like it was scaring anybody out or attracting far more attention too early for anything to build into any price movement for that third day surge tomorrow. We'll be short sale restricted as well, so we'll see what happens. And I really just want to establish a position on these ones going into the third day versus trying to play anything in pre-market or during the morning session on that third day because of the potential move of, okay, what if we do actually open closer to 2.7? Then I'm already locked in with 10% profit. I'm already sitting from a position of power with a 10% profit. I'm already in the trade when I knew that potential move could happen, and then I'm fighting against I knew I should have gotten in yesterday, and fighting with that internal voice with myself of trying to potentially establish a trade tomorrow if I didn't have any position already going into it from today. So just taking little matters like that and applying them to more of my trading style on specific tickers like this today. But yeah, that's DATS. And of course, I got to talk about AMC, GME. Man, really did not watch any of these, still watching other tickers, but crazy volatility and opportunity today. Lots of guys talking about it in the chat. Would be absolutely awesome to see these things just start ripping once again. Bring all the apes and the monkeys and the diamond hands back into the market. Just overall dollar volume and attention, just back of degenerative money. Bring it back in and start playing more speculative, gamblatory plays. Not that I want to see that, not that I'm trying to force anything out of the market, but just certainly would be nice to see. That's all I'm going to leave it as with that. Before I end up closing here, that is all that I had since getting after it every single day, continuing to fail more and more, finding less and less ways to potentially fail, and just trying to do my best and everything to make sure that I am learning from those stupid taxes and not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, but just continuing to learn and grow and stick with the process in each and every single day. I am extremely grateful for it, and I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.